I arrived at my grandson's baptism wearing my best suit, the one my late wife Ruth bought me 15 years ago. Parked my truck between the Mercedes and BMWs, 200 guests inside. I'd paid $28,000 for this day. The venue, the gown, everything. My daughter met me at the church entrance in front of everyone. "Dad, there's no room for you here." I stood there, 69 years old, just got told I wasn't good enough for my own grandson's baptism. That's when I decided, if I'm just an ATM to them, then this ATM is shutting down. 20 minutes later, I made a phone call from my truck. One phone call. That's all it took. What happened next? Destroyed their perfect day and changed everything. I'm Garrett Wayne Bennett, 69 years old. Spent the last 40 years building Bennett Auto Repair from a single bay garage into 5 locations across Indianapolis. Started with nothing but a toolbox and determination after Ruth and I got married. She believed in me when nobody else would, even when I came home every night covered in grease and doubt. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. Comfortable enough to write a check for $28,000 to cover my grandson's baptism. The venue rental, the catering, that $800 christening gown imported from Ireland. When Paige called asking for help with the celebration, I didn't hesitate. Family comes first. That's what Ruth always taught me, and that's what I taught Paige. That Saturday morning in March, I put on the dark suit Ruth bought me 15 years ago for our 30th anniversary. She always said it made me look distinguished, like a successful businessman instead of a grease monkey. I miss her voice saying things like that. 3 years since cancer took her, and I still set 2 coffee cups out every morning before remembering. I drove the 20 minutes from my place in Southside Indianapolis up to Second Presbyterian Church on North Meridian. Upscale neighborhood, the kind where people check what you drive before they decide if you're worth talking to. My Toyota Tundra looked exactly like what it was among all those luxury cars. A working man's vehicle in a parking lot full of status symbols. The sanctuary was packed. Maybe 200 people, all dressed like they were attending a society wedding instead of a baby's baptism. I didn't recognize a single face, and that should have been my first warning. These weren't family friends or neighbors. These were Colton's people, his business partners, investors, whatever he called them this week. I spotted Paige near the entrance, holding 3-month-old Mason. She wore a cream-colored dress, hair done up in some fancy style that probably cost more than most people make in a week. She looked exactly like her mother used to on Sundays, beautiful and graceful. For a moment, my heart swelled with pride. My little girl, all grown up with a baby of her own. Then she saw me. Her smile vanished like someone had flipped a switch. She cut through the crowd fast, heels clicking on the marble floor, and grabbed my elbow before I could take another step toward the sanctuary. "Dad." Her voice was low, controlled, like she was talking to a difficult customer. "What are you doing here?" "It's Mason's baptism," I said, confused. "I'm his grandfather. I know, but there's no room." She glanced back at the sanctuary, at Colton, who was laughing with a group of men in expensive suits, completely ignoring our conversation. "Colton's business partners are here. Important people. We didn't think you'd actually come. Didn't think I'd come to my own grandson's baptism." The words hit me like a wrench to the gut. "Paige, I paid for everything. The venue, the catering, Mason's gown, and we appreciate that." "Really?" She still wouldn't meet my eyes. "But Dad, you don't fit in here. These people are Colton's network. You'd be uncomfortable with all the business talk." Through the sanctuary doors, I could see Mason in some stranger's arms. My grandson, 3 months old, wearing the gown I'd paid for, surrounded by people I'd never met, people who were apparently more important than family. "So where do I sit?" I asked. She finally looked at me then, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Embarrassment. She was embarrassed by me. "Maybe it's better if you just go home, Dad. We'll send you photos." The whispers started then. 200 people watching this play out in the church lobby, watching my own daughter tell me I wasn't good enough for her world. I looked at this woman I'd raised alone after Ruth died, put through private school while working 60-hour weeks at the garage. This woman who used to hand me wrenches on the shop floor and tell everyone proudly that her dad owned Bennett Auto Repair. "Thanks for the check, Dad," she said quietly. "You should go." I could have argued, could have pushed past her and walked into that sanctuary, found a seat in the back, made them deal with it. But you don't make a scene in church. You don't embarrass your family, even when they're embarrassing you. So I turned around and walked back through that lobby with my spine straight, past the whispers, past the stares, past Colton, who finally noticed me leaving and gave this little satisfied smirk. The walk to my truck felt like a mile. Every step echoed in my head with Ruth's voice. Family comes first, Garrett. Always family first. But what do you do when family doesn't want you first? I got in my truck, started the engine, didn't cry. I stopped doing that much after Ruth passed. Didn't curse, though I wanted to. I just sat there for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, staring at that church where my grandson was being baptized without me. And somewhere in that church parking lot, surrounded by cars worth more than most people's houses, I made a decision. If Paige wanted to treat me like an ATM, like a checkbook with a pulse, like I existed only to fund her perfect life, then fine. This ATM was about to shut down. The 20-minute drive home felt like 20 years. I kept both hands on the wheel, knuckles white. Every red light gave me too much time to see her face again. That cold look when she said I didn't fit in, the embarrassment in her eyes when she looked at me. By the time I pulled into my driveway in Southside, I knew exactly what I was going to do. My house is modest. 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy, but it's paid for. Ruth and I raised Paige here. After Ruth passed, I kept everything the same. Her pictures on every wall, her garden out back still blooming every spring. Too much of her here to let go. I sat in the truck for a minute, staring at the front door. Ruth's voice echoed in my memory. That girl loves you, Garrett. Sometimes love just gets confused with other things. Well, today it got confused with shame. I went inside, loosened my collar, draped the suit jacket over the couch. The house was too quiet. I stood in the living room looking at Ruth's picture on the mantle, our 25th anniversary photo. She was smiling that smile that could light up any room. She always made people feel welcome, no matter what they drove or where they worked. She would have been ashamed of Paige today. I walked to the home office, Ruth's old desk in the second bedroom where she used to pay the bills and handle the business paperwork. I opened the filing cabinet and pulled out the folder marked Paige Financial. Inside were documents I'd been keeping for years, just like Ruth taught me. Keep good records, she always said. You never know when you'll need them. The deed to the house in Broad Ripple that I bought them as a wedding gift. Still in my name, like my lawyer Owen advised. Give them the use of it, he'd said, but keep the ownership until you're sure. Smart man, Owen. Wish I'd listened to more of his advice. The auto-pay setup for Colton's Lexus. $680 a month. Every month for 3 years now. Coming straight out of my business account. The lease agreement for his office space on Mass Ave. My building, my lease. I'd bought that property 5 years ago as an investment. When Colton needed office space for his consulting business, I gave him a good deal. Family rate, Ruth would have called it. I spread them all on the desk. The numbers told a story. $28,000 for this baptism alone. We'd already paid the venue a $13,000 deposit months ago. The remaining $15,000 was due today. Final payment before they'd serve the food or open the bar. Another $12,200 for catering. $800 for a gown my grandson wore for maybe an hour before I got dismissed at the door. I own everything, I realized. Their house, his car, his office space. Everything that made them look successful. Everything that made them feel entitled enough to throw their family away for appearances. Ruth's words came back to me. Money doesn't make the man, Garrett, but how a man treats money shows what kind of man he is. I picked up my phone, called Camden Ellis. He's been my accountant for 30 years, handled the books since I had just one garage and big dreams. Garrett, how was the baptism? Camden, I need you to cancel a payment. Which one? Scottish Rite Cathedral. The $15,000 balance. Long pause. I could hear him typing, pulling up my accounts. Garrett, that's the final payment for today's event. If that doesn't clear, they can't serve food. The bar shuts down. There are 200 people there right now expecting a celebration. That's exactly what I want. Jesus, Garrett. Another pause. If I do this, there's no taking it back. Your daughter's going to... My daughter just told me there's no room for me at my own grandson's baptism. She's made her choice. Now I'm making mine. Silence on the line. Camden's known me for 3 decades. He's seen me make tough business decisions before, but never anything like this. All right, he said finally. I'll call the bank. Anything else? Freeze Paige's credit cards. All of them. The ones on my accounts. Those are the only ones she has. Another pause, longer this time. Garrett, this is war. I leaned back in Ruth's chair, looked at her picture on the desk. Us at Paige's college graduation, back when our daughter still wanted us around. No, Camden, this is education. I hung up and sat there, imagining it. Colton and Paige at that venue right now, greeting their important guests. Champagne flowing, everyone admiring the flowers, the setup, the perfect presentation. And then the venue manager walking over with very bad news. For the first time all day, I smiled. The phone started buzzing around 6 o'clock p.m. I ignored it, made myself a ham sandwich, ate standing at the kitchen counter. The phone kept ringing. I turned it face down and finished my sandwich in peace. At 9 o'clock, I brushed my teeth and went to bed. Slept better than I had in months. While I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, 200 guests were arriving at the Scottish Rite Cathedral expecting a celebration. The grand ballroom looked perfect. White flowers everywhere, champagne fountains sparkling under crystal chandeliers, tables set with fine china. Everything arranged exactly how Paige wanted it. Colton and Paige stood near the entrance greeting guests. Him in an expensive suit that cost more than most people make in a week, shaking hands with his business partners, making connections. Her smiling like she'd pulled off the social event of the season. Mason was being passed around like a trophy, everyone admiring that $800 Irish lace gown. At 3:45 p.m., Kenneth Brady, the venue manager, pulled Colton aside discreetly. "Mr. Bennett, we have a situation. The final payment check was declined by the bank." Colton barely glanced at him, still watching his guests. "That's impossible. My father-in-law is good for it. Must be a bank error." "Sir, I called personally. The check was canceled this morning by Mr. Bennett himself." That got Colton's attention. His face went white. "Canceled? What do you mean canceled? The account holder specifically requested the payment be stopped. Without the final $15,000, we cannot serve food or open the bar." Colton fumbled for his wallet, hands shaking now. "Run this," he said, shoving a credit card at Kenneth. Kenneth returned 2 minutes later. Declined. Another card. "Try this one." Declined. A third card. A fourth. All declined. "Mr. Bradford," Kenneth said quietly, without immediate payment, "will need to shut down service. The catering staff has been notified." Behind them, the catering team was already stopping their setup. The bartender closed the bar, covered the bottles. Guests began to notice. You know how it is at events like this. People can smell trouble from across a ballroom. Paige appeared at Colton's elbow, Mason fussing in her arms. "What's happening? Why are they covering the bar? Your father canceled the payment." She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, dialed my number. I imagine it rang in my pocket while I slept the sleep of the righteous. He's not answering. The whispers started then. Quiet at first, then growing louder as words spread through the crowd. By 4:30, those whispers had turned to full conversations. Guests checking their watches, making polite excuses. Some weren't even polite about it. I heard the father-in-law pulled funding. Some kind of family drama. How embarrassing. Poor planning, if you ask me. Colton, desperate now, actually went around asking guests for money. Picture that. A man who'd just spent an hour talking about his successful consulting business, now panhandling at his own son's baptism. Most people made quick excuses and headed for the exit. "Sorry, Colton, just remembered we have another commitment." Emergency came up at the office. The babysitter called. By 5 o'clock p.m., the grand ballroom was empty except for Colton, Paige, Kenneth, and a few catering staff cleaning up the mess. 200 guests had dwindled down to a handful of confused relatives who'd driven in from out of town. "I'll need you to vacate the premises," Kenneth said quietly. "We have another event setting up at 7 o'clock. Meanwhile, I was having a peaceful dinner. That ham sandwich tasted better than any fancy meal. My phone buzzed constantly from 6 o'clock onward, but I let it ring. Voicemail after voicemail piled up while I ate, read the paper, watched the evening news. Sunday morning came crisp and clear. I made coffee, poured a bowl of oatmeal, and finally turned on my phone. 22 missed calls. 22 voicemails. I settled in with my breakfast and hit play. Colton's voice, around 6:30 p.m. Saturday. Furious. "You selfish old bastard. Do you have any idea what you just did? My investors were there. Important people. You've destroyed everything I've been building. I took a bite of oatmeal. Next message. Paige, crying. Daddy, please. People are laughing at us. Everyone saw what happened. Please call me back. We can fix this. Colton again, even angrier. This isn't over, old man. You can't just destroy people's lives because your feelings got hurt. Paige again, between sobs. Daddy, I'm begging you. Call me back. More of the same. Colton threatening. Paige pleading. The messages got more desperate as the night wore on. By message 15, my oatmeal was gone. By message 20, I was on my second cup of coffee. The last message was Paige at midnight, just sobbing. No words, just broken crying that went on for 2 minutes. When it finished, I sat there for a moment, looking out the window at Ruth's rose garden starting to bloom in the spring sunshine. Then I deleted all 22 messages, every single one. I poured a third cup of coffee and settled in with the Sunday paper. The sports section had a good article about the Colts' draft prospects. Life was good. Around 10:30, I heard a car pull into my driveway with more force than necessary. Doors slamming, angry voices. I set down my coffee and waited. The banging on my front door could have woken the whole neighborhood. I took my time getting to the door. Let them wait. When I finally opened it, Colton and Paige looked like they'd been through a war. His expensive suit was wrinkled, collar open, hair pointing in every direction. She still wore that cream dress from yesterday. Mascara streaked down her face like black tears. We need to talk, Colton said, pushing past me into my living room without invitation. Time for round 2. What the hell were you thinking? Colton's voice rattled my windows. Do you have any idea what you just did? I closed the door, followed him into my living room, stood there with my arms crossed. I know exactly what I did. My investors were there. He was pacing now like a caged animal. People I've been courting for months, and you humiliated us. Made us look like we don't have money? Like you don't actually have money? I cut him off. Like you've been living off my dime? That what you're upset about, Colton? The truth coming out? Paige stepped forward, tears streaming. Daddy, people were laughing at us. My friends, they all saw. Your friends? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Where were my friends yesterday, Paige? Oh, right. There was no room for me. I didn't fit in. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Colton got between us. You need to fix this. Call the venue. Pay them. Apologize. We can still salvage. I'm not fixing anything. You will fix this. He moved closer, voice turning dangerous. That house you live in? The one in Broad Ripple? I kept my voice level. That's mine. Been mine for 8 years. You've been living there rent-free. Colton stopped pacing. That was a gift. You gave that to Paige when we got married. I let you live there. Past tense. You'll get an eviction notice Monday morning. You can't... That Lexus you drive? $680 a month comes out of my account automatically. Not anymore. His face was changing colors now, red to white to red again. That office on Mass Ave where you meet your investors? I own that building. Your lease is terminated. Locks get changed Monday. Paige grabbed my arm. Dad, you can't do this. We have Mason. I pulled my arm away gently. You want to treat me like I don't exist? Like I'm just an ATM you tap when you need cash? Fine. Then my money doesn't exist either. That's when Colton lost it completely. He grabbed my shirt, pulled me close. For a second, I thought he might actually hit me. You can't do this, he hissed. We'll sue. We'll have you declared incompetent. You're clearly not thinking straight. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at him until he let go. Get out of my house. We'll take everything, Colton said, backing toward the door. The garage, the properties, all of it. You're senile. Any judge will see that. Get out. Paige tried one more time. Dad, please. What about Mason? He's your grandson. That stopped me for a second. Just a second. Mason deserves better than parents who use people. Maybe losing everything will teach you how to be those parents. 3 months later, everything came to a head. Colton made good on his threat. He hired a fake doctor to have me declared incompetent, broke into my house with 2 men in scrubs. They tried to force me into a van, probably to some facility where Colton could get power of attorney. But I was ready. Had my phone recording, legitimate psychiatric evaluation in my wallet, and Logan watching from down the street with 911 on speed dial. The police arrested all 4 of them. Attempted kidnapping, assault, conspiracy. Colton was looking at 5 to 7 years. At the police station, Paige was waiting with Mason in her arms. She looked exhausted, defeated. Nowhere left to go. "Dad, can we talk? Please?" I stopped, looked at her, at Mason, who was now 6 months old and starting to look around with curious eyes. 5 minutes. "I'm sorry," her voice broke. "About the church. About everything. Colton said it would be better for networking, that your presence would hurt his business relationships. What did you want, Paige?" She hesitated. "I wanted him to be happy. He was under so much pressure. He owes money to dangerous people. $87,000 in gambling debts. He thought if he could get control of your accounts." "So you decided to throw your father away to save him. I didn't know he'd try to kidnap you. I swear, you blocked me from my grandson's baptism in front of 200 people. That wasn't Colton. That was you." Silence. I pulled out an envelope my lawyer Owen had prepared. "This is my offer, one chance only." She read it. "A job at Bennett Auto Repair. $15 an hour. Start Monday 5:45 a.m. Whatever Brady tells her to do. I can't do manual labor, I have a baby. Then figure something else out. Your husband's going to prison. Your society friends won't return your calls. You've got no money, no job, no skills. And if I don't show up Monday, then you and Mason are on your own. Completely." She showed up Monday, and Tuesday, and every day after that. The first month was hard. She scrubbed floors, emptied trash, cleaned bathrooms. That designer wardrobe got ruined by grease and honest sweat. But she didn't quit. By month 3, Brady was teaching her to change oil, rotate tires. By month 6, she was handling customers, managing schedules. The other mechanics stopped calling her the boss's daughter and started using her name. 9 months after that baptism, we threw Mason's first birthday party. Not at some fancy venue, right there in the garage bay, cleared out and decorated with balloons. 40 people came, real people who cared about us. Paige stood up to speak, holding Mason, who was now walking and getting into everything. "A year ago, I made the worst mistake of my life. I told my father he wasn't welcome at his grandson's baptism. I was ashamed of him because he worked with his hands, because he didn't fit my fake world." Tears started flowing. "My dad taught me how to fix the most broken thing of all. Me. Dad, I'm sorry. So sorry. Thank you for not giving up on me." We hugged then. Really hugged. Both crying. First time in over a year. When we pulled apart, Mason took his first wobbling steps toward us, fell into our arms. Everyone cheered. That night, as I held my grandson while he slept, I thought about Ruth. About family coming first. Sometimes it just takes longer to get there. If you're listening to this because someone threw you away like I was, here's what I learned. Set boundaries, demand change, but leave the door cracked open. You'd be surprised who walks through when they've hit rock bottom and finally learned what really matters. This isn't just a story. This is real life. Messy, painful, beautiful real life. Thanks for listening to An Old Man's Story.